episode of Pretty Suited Podcast. I am your host, Lauren A. Today, I am giving you guys Morticia vibes. I don't know. I'm giving Halloween, but it's okay. I dig it. It's giving old money. It's okay. I like it. So first, I would like to say Happy Women's History Month. It is almost the end of March, but I still want to give a shout out to all my women out there who are doing the best that they can, who are making major moves out there, who are, knocking down doors, being trailblazers, or just being simply the best woman they can be. It's always so much pressure to do more, to achieve more, to have more. And women, we have done so much throughout the years. With this being a career and culture podcast, I definitely have to shout out the work that we're doing in the workplace, the work that we're doing, for nonprofits, the work we're doing for Fortune 500 companies, or even just being business owners. I think we've made tremendous strides in these efforts. So just continue on doing our thing. So in that breath, with it being Women's History Month, I also want to point out, I don't know about you guys, but with it being spring, the time has changed. That threw me all the way off because I wasn't even aware time was getting ready to change. I had my clock set, and it went forward without my permission. The weather's changing. I know some places it's still warm, but where I am, the weather is getting warmer. And a topic that's not talked about a lot is seasonal depression. And I'm not saying necessarily that I suffered from it throughout the whole season of winter, but I did notice a difference in my mood, a few days sprinkled out the season. I feel like, when it was stormy or when it was dark and rainy for, more than one day, I started to take notice in how gloomy I was feeling, how melancholy I was feeling. Like, I was like, Lauren, you have got to pick up, you have to go outside, maybe sniff some fresh air. You have to, maybe pick up a happy book. You have to, color, paint, do something, because, there are several studies out there that actually prove that weather has a significant effect on your mood. Oftentimes we can get so caught up in our work, especially if you work remote. That's not spoken about enough either. But if you work remote, or if you're spending time at home, homeschooling kids, or spending more time indoors, being a homebody more often, find some time out. If you have a balcony or a porch, go out on there, read a book, drink some coffee, do your work outside. If you have an office, maybe open the blinds up, let the light in. It's not a cure, but I've seen a significant difference, and I suggest that, try it out and see how you feel, along with your doctor's suggestions, of course. So in the essence of, mental health and what we do as women, a lot of times, I wanted to talk about the idea. I wanted to talk about the idea of self-erasure. And when I say self-erasure, I mean that, women do a phenomenal job of basically being superwoman. A lot of times we're mothers, we are sisters, daughters, helping out the family, taking on a large role in some kind of way. And we're working, and we're trying to take care of ourselves, and we're trying to be good friends, so we're doing a whole lot. And oftentimes, depending on how you were brought up, how you grew up, you try to please other people, try to be on their good side, try to be as helpful as possible, but in the essence, sometimes you end up losing yourself doing all that, right? Because you want to be helpful, you want to be, useful and things like that. But as the more and more you progress and try to help others out and be there and show up for the game, show up for the baby shower, plan and host this and doing all that, that you slowly but surely erase yourself. You slowly but surely, decrease those boundaries around you. And oh, wow, you're just like, yeah, sure, I got it. Yeah. But in the same breath, you are absolutely exhausted. And, it's up to you to advocate for yourself. It's up to you to not, you can very well be helpful. You can very well be, there and show up for people, but not for the sake of your own mental health and your own well-being. I saw this clip that helped explain, what I'm trying to say. So check this out. We'll talk about it.
Self erasure is really related to people pleasing, and it is often a skill we learn very early that in order to survive, in order to be safe, in order to be liked, I can anticipate what people want and give it to them. And people will praise you for it. People will praise you for erasing yourself, for having no needs, right? Or do you need anything? No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just here to help you. Oh, people, we love that, right? A person with
100%.
no needs who just wants to be of service to you. And so we get that reinforced in friendship, in relationships. So that's how people can be in friendships for years with people who don't like you, right? Don't care about you, but I just have to keep them pleased in some way. One of the pieces I talk about of reclaiming yourself and coming home to yourself is, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. When you find yourself, some people won't like it.
So I completely agree. I think that boundaries are something that, a healthy person can establish in order to make sure that they're not depleted. The famous saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, is very true. Right? You just cannot give and give and give and give and give and not have anybody pour into you. And if you don't communicate those needs, then it's not going to be met, because people will take from you, maybe not maliciously, right? Your mom, your sister, your cousin, your friend, they'll keep, taking from you, not maliciously, but they think that you got it, right? Because you're smiling and offering up your services every time. But, sometimes they may not stop and say, hey, are you sure you got it? Are you good? You know what? Never mind. We'll let somebody else do it because you got a lot on your plate. That may not always be communicated. So, you finding yourself saying yes to everything and not creating those boundaries to where, okay, I can do it on Thursday, but I can't do it on Wednesday. I can start at 2, but I can't do it early at 10. Like, whatever your boundary may be, setting up some kind of arrangement to where you're not fully depleting yourself, I think is important for you not to have burnout. And so what she said made complete sense, because sometimes it stems from most times it stems from childhood. I have a family member who, she was an only child, and she made a conscious effort to be there for all of the adults as she grew older. She helped them with all their bills. She helped them with their transportation. She did it because, for one, she didn't have a sibling, so she wasn't really able to bounce off socially with another young person on a consistent basis. So all she grew up around adults. And so, to find herself, up, I guess, a part of the group, or to find herself, being useful amongst adults, she basically was a doer. She was a helper. She was an assistant, right? And while that may be fine and that may be great in a healthy way, it can in turn into, I'm not useful unless. And that's where you get into some sticky waters, because your role as a person should not be predicated on what you do for others. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that I had to catch myself a few times too, because, you find yourself having this, title behind your name. You find yourself, hey, I'm pretty good at this and I'm going to do it for others. And that's fine. But that's not who you are. And people should be able to love you, adore you, want to be around you without you performing a certain task. And if you find yourself in a place where you're in an environment where, you're not wanted, needed, or appreciated unless you're performing a role for somebody, then you might need to reevaluate that situation, because nobody wants to feel like they're only there because of what you do for somebody. Now, I'm not saying don't be a bum now. Of course, you contribute something to the world. Okay, let's not get crazy. But I'm saying that there should be times where you are completely still and completely quiet and still be loved by those around you. Because people love you for who you are, not what you can do for them. And what you can do should only be an icing on a cake, should only be, a cherry on top, because you just want to contribute. But it should not be it directly correlated with how others love you. Your family members should, validate and say, hey, I understand you got this role. I understand you're good at this. I understand you're helpful, but I love you anyway, even if you don't. Even if you don't win, even if you don't help, even if you don't know, I love you anyway. You see what I'm saying? I think that's valuable. That's valuable to any person, man, woman, or child. That's valuable to know that you are appreciated regardless. And it was so powerful what she said at the end of, people may not like you when you stand up for yourself. There has been many times where, I found myself overextending myself just a little bit. And I'm like, hold up. Pause. Okay. Let me chill. Let me pull back a little bit and take care of Lauren for a second. And then I can resume, the extra with my friends and family. But for right now, I need to take care of my own affairs. I need to look after my own self and my own mental health. And I need to check in with Lauren. And when I said that, there were a couple of people who was a little taken aback by my decision. And those people, let's just say that they're not around anymore. But it took for me to create those boundaries in order for me to see who was really there for me, because the real ones in my life said, girl, I totally agree. Do what you got to do. We'll circle back in a couple of weeks or whatever, or a couple of months. That's completely fine. And it was no smoke. It was no ill will. It was no nothing. And I appreciate those people, because if they were to say the same thing to me, I'll say the same thing. All right, cool. Do you need something from me? Let's circle back around when you're able to. It ain't no, I'm not it's okay. No worries. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like a lot of people, there was a couple of people who just, was like, what? You said no. And how dare you say no? And that's just not that. I was like, okay, I see how you're moving. And it just gave me permission to be able to put them in their place. And, some of them, they're not around at this point. I think too, who else suffer from this a lot is, the higher you go, and this is especially true, the higher you go, when it comes into your career, or let's say the more money you make and things like that, right? Naturally as women, we want to be helpers, but when you start to make more money, when you start to have, the ability to, help others in a different way. You could have been helpful 99 times, but that one time you say no, that makes 100. Oh Lord, how dare you? How dare you choose yourself over me? What? Huh? You're selfish. You've changed. Money changed you. What? Like, I feel like, some people have the audacity to be upset with you for making the decision that's best for you and your own family. It baffles me, but it's a reality. And so, like I said, when you get a chance to be able to really see who is for you and who is against you, that's a sweet thing. It could be saddening, because, you wouldn't expect certain people to act the way they do. But it's also a great thing, because it's an eye opener for you to be like, okay, you wasn't a real one to begin with. So how about you evaluate your circumstance and see what your life is like without me? And then, we'll see who really lost. Okay. There's nothing wrong with seasonal selfishness. Okay. Now, I'm not saying to be, completely selfish and just that be a part of your character. But I'm saying is that just like you have seasonal depression, you can have seasonal selfishness. And for this particular season, I want to be selfish, and that should be okay. Selfish with your time, selfish with your energy, selfish with your mental health, selfish with your boundaries, selfish with whatever you got to do to get yourself in order so that you'll be able to give to others. Because if you're working, again, from an empty cup, what do you have to give to yourself? Absolutely nothing. And then now you end up trying to figure out why you're tired, why you're distraught, why you got brain fog, why your body's giving up on you, why you're drowsy and fatigued and you're sick. Well, a lot of times the stress can literally manifest into physical illness. So, take that into consideration too. Seasonal selfishness can be a remedy to you being able to refill and recharge to be able to give your best self to other people. Now, if you got children, I'm not saying that you leaving them neglected and depressed, and nobody is saying neglect is a thing. Now, don't neglect, what your responsibilities. But I'm just saying, just be a little bit more intentional about your boundaries, so that way you're able to do the best you can later on. Okay. And speaking of insecurities, playing small is not something that should be done on a consistent basis. In this next clip, the famous author Robert Greene made some valid points about how we perceive strength, how we perceive confidence, and what we do sometimes in response to that confidence. Check this clip out.
So one of the worst things are people who are insecure, because a lot of people turn aggressive and envious and ugly because they're very insecure about themselves. And their way of protecting is to attack other people out of insecurity. So people who appear to be very macho, very aggressive, are actually riddled with all kinds of insecurities. And those kind of insecurities are revealed through their body language. So I tell you, you go into a boardroom, a meeting with very powerful people, and this one man, generally a man, tends to present this very aggressive front. And yet you see that his foot is shaking like this, or something about his body language doesn't match his words. You realize that this isn't that he's playing a game. He's trying to disguise all of these weaknesses. And so therefore, if you can recognize that people aren't nearly as powerful and intimidating as they actually are, then in their presence, you don't get emotional.
So in that clip, I thought it was pretty interesting how he pointed out how the person in the room that you perceive to be so confident, they may not be the most confident in the room. You know that phrase, fake it till you make it, is real, right? Like, hey, I'm really scared in this situation right now, but I can't let you see that I'm scared. And a lot of times people who are in charge, they have that same exact mentality. So while you're shaking in your boots, trying to, you're intimidated and not really willing to stand up or raise your hand or speak out and advocate for yourself, they're doing the same thing, but they just hiding it better. He's the same guy who wrote 48 Laws of Power, right? And he also wrote The Power of Seduction and things like that. So, his expertise is really knowing how to navigate in a world full of snakes and wolves. Whether you're the seducer or whether you are the victim, that's kind of been his specialty. So I really enjoy reading his books and seeing his perspective on what he thinks about power and things like that. Now, he seems to be, visually a timid guy. So it's really funny when you think about it to see him, and you wouldn't necessarily believe that, he's the most confident in the room or he's the most knowledgeable about something. But he has a great perspective, on how both sides think and feel. He also brings an important point when I think about imposter syndrome. Right? So usually imposter syndrome is described as when you don't think that you're supposed to be in a room, right? Where you may be absolutely qualified. I'm talking about you got the degree, you got the, experience, you got this, you got that, but you're in the room full of people who have a bit more confidence or maybe a bit more knowledge in you about something. And so you end up cowering a little bit just because you don't think you're supposed to be in that room. And this happens to everybody. This has happened to me. This has happened to pretty much any person who, goes into a new situation. So whether that is a new job, whether this could be on a sports team, it could be, in a new group, whatever it is, that imposter syndrome can be real. And you don't want to psych yourself out into thinking that you're not in the room, because you're there for a reason. Don't forget, you are there for a reason. Whether it was circumstance, luck, invitation, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're in the room. So now, what are you going to do when you're in the room? Are you going to show up? Are you going to prove that you deserve to be there? Or are you going to just, hide and be ducked off and just act like an ant, in a room full of lions? You know what I'm saying? I think because, of course, there's times where you should be an observant. You should just be observant and just kind of peep game. But if you're invited and you're expected to participate, you cowering in a corner is not going to do you any service, because you're going to be overlooked. Nobody's going to listen to what you have to say. And you could miss out on a great opportunity to step up and show who you are. Because if you have people in the room can be less educated on you about the topic, and you can be more educated, but because you're afraid to even speak up because of the doubt and the fear of being wrong, you're not going to say anything. But the person who just had the balls to do it speaks up. Now they got the promotion. Now they got the opportunity. Now they got a chance to, be seen, and kind of, now everybody's looking at them like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. And probably don't know a damn thing, but because they had the balls to be a participant, then they have more edge over you. Yeah, choose your battles. Of course, you don't want to just be running off at the mouth and not be knowledgeable. Okay, sure. But I'm saying that if you have what it takes and you choose not to take that chance, it's not anyone else's fault if you don't succeed. I know it's easier said than done, but at least if you were to try and fail, it's better than if you weren't to not even try at all. It's just a matter of who's willing to take the chance, who's willing to bet on what they know. Who's willing to bet on, what they've been through, the experiences that they have, the knowledge? Who's willing to bet on that? Because 9 times out of 10, they either going to have the same amount of knowledge as you have or less. But it's all about who's ready to take the risk. So don't be so afraid of a sheep in wolf's clothing. Okay? So now we're going to get into our watch list of the week. So this week's watch list of the week, we're talking about a show that I just so happened to stumble upon. It really wasn't in my Rolodex of episodes that I wanted to hit. I just so happened to turn on Hulu and see it pop up at the top of the screen. And I was like, that's Kerry Washington, And I love me some Kerry Washington, because just ever since, Say the Last Dance, that is just one of my movies. And I could tell it to you verbatim. I'm that bad. But she was starring in that movie, and since then she's just been on my radar as one of our great female actresses. And so I got a chance to click on it, and she is starring as this marriage and family therapist, or some kind of therapist, whose father has recently gotten out of prison after like 17 years. And she is living with her son as a single mom, and her dad is living with her now, just, freshly out of jail. And so watching this was very therapeutic for me. I'm not going to hold you. Watching this show was very therapeutic because it hit on a lot of things that women go through when it comes to their daddy issues. So whether the dad was there and he just proved to be a bad example, or whether the father wasn't there and she was raised around bad examples because of his absence, it touched on pretty much everything. I mean, she is a very anxious woman, a very analytical woman, and it kind of reflected a lot of behaviors that I've gone through, not because my dad wasn't there or anything like that, but because, just dealing with men, you end up having some things manifest. You know what I'm saying? Like just whatever it may be, whether it's an ex-boyfriend or whether it's a dad, an uncle, a granddad, whatever the case may be, women's relationship with men literally manifest in some kind of way, especially in their dating lives. So I think that this show is very well written. The characters, the guy who plays her grandfather, I forgot his name. He's been in several movies over the years that I've loved, but his acting in it has been great because, you know, he's not just a cool guy. He is a dad who is recognizing the things that he's done that make a negative impact in his daughter's life, and he's trying to walk on eggshells. He's trying to be a better man. And that is difficult to do, especially in the world where everything, now that you're a felon, everything is literally put in place to set you back again. Like they literally, the justice system is set up to have felons repeat offense because unfortunately they're unable to create a life for themselves, right? So going back to imposter syndrome, going back to feeling small in the room, you know, you do a crime, you go to jail, you serve your time, you come out, you're put on house arrest, so you're caged some more. You random drug tests. You got to check in with another man or a woman, you know, when your probation officer, and then you can't go. You can't get your license. You can't get, you know, a permit to do this. You can't work because they don't hire felons. You can't do that. So you're pretty much put in a situation where it's like, I guess I kind of have to go back to doing the thing that I did to get me in jail to get some money to make a living for myself. So it's really set up to just make them fail, but it's just it's something that we really have to change in this country. But he does a great job, you know, showcasing all the emotions that come with that. As a grown black man, you know, having to deal with that and deal with the behavior of his daughter, who's also an intelligent black woman, but she got a lot of issues, right? As we all do. But I think that it's a great show. I binge watched the whole thing. And it's only 8 episodes, so you can do it too, literally in a day or a couple of hours. And it's a really good show. One important quote that the guy said in that show that really stuck with me, that I'm going to literally take with me forever, is Kerry Washington. She was having a real issue trying to just wait for the ball to drop, right? You know, her dad's going to prison. Her dad went to prison. Now he's out, and she just waiting for the ball to drop for him to go back into prison again. And that happens a lot of time with women too, whether it's with their dad or whether it's with their, you know, relationship. You know, he cheated once or he lied once or whatever. I'm just waiting for the ball to drop for him to do it again. I'm just waiting. So you're almost literally putting that energy out there for him to do it again because you just want them to prove you right. Lord knows I have been there myself. And that's not a good space to be in because you're always just waiting. And it's like, dang, can you just give the person the benefit of the doubt until it happens? No, you can't do that, right? You got to anticipate it happening because you know it's going to happen. And then when it happens, you're like, oh, see, I done told you. I knew it. You proved me right. And that's just like, who wants to do that? And so, you know, when she was doing that in the show, the guy made such a quote. Oh my God. He said, do you want to be right or do you want to be free? Man, when he said that, I was like, bruh, get out of my business. Get out of my business. Do you want to be right or do you want to be free? Because at the end of the day, you sitting up here waiting for the shoe to drop and you're waiting on something to just happen and whatnot. You are not being free. You're not living your life. You're caught up in a web of just, uncertainty. And that's nowhere to live. Be free, bitch. Be free. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to do that. If it happens, it happens. And you could just deal with it as it happens, but you don't have to literally sit there in anticipation. Your nervous system is all up and running and crazy just because you think something's going to happen, because you literally are putting it out there. I thought that was brilliant. So check it out. It's on Hulu. It's called 'Unprisoned'. So now we're going to get into our tune of the week. It's about a guy, it's about an artist by the name of Dixon, who is, I just discovered, but he is no newbie to the game. I actually saw him on another podcast on See the Thing Is with Mandy B and Bridget Kelly. And he was on that podcast just, chopping it up with them, telling them his history. He's worked with several artists, including Chance the Rapper, Beyonce. I think he wrote Virgo's Groove on the last album of Renaissance. And he literally was like an executive for Neiman Marcus. He was a music director at a mega church, and he just kept naming things, and he speaks French. He just kept naming things that he's done over and over again. And it can be frustrating for you to have all of this experience, accumulated, right? And you not be an artist, or you not being chosen, or people not know who you are, but the public have no idea that you have been attached to and created so many beautiful things without you being an artist. And so when he just took the time out to say, hey, I'm going to be an artist, and tried to do it on his own, it took a little while for the ball to roll, but now he's, doing well, successful, and has Grammys and Oscars and whatnot. But when it all goes back to the subject of this whole podcast, is just, you can have all the skill, all of the knowledge, all the experience, you know what I'm saying? But it really takes for you to step out onto your own and step out into the spotlight for you to be able to get the accolades that you deserve. You cowering in the corner and not capitalizing on your opportunity is only doing you a disservice. You're not hurting anybody else. You're doing yourself a disservice by doing that, by having that imposter syndrome, and making yourself feel smaller than you really are. You know what I'm saying? If you've built the knowledge and experience and the discipline to perfect a craft, be proud of that. Be proud of that. Because those things, is something that you should be proud of. And I'm not saying carry this big gigantic head and think that nobody can touch you, see you, or anything like that. I mean, we're not trying to Kanye the situation, but still you want to, take pride in the work that you've put into something, and, step out on faith, and just have faith that it's going to do well. Have faith that it's going to be seen. And if it's not seen the first time, try and try again. Try and try again, because, why not? Why not? The worst they can say is they don't like it. Okay, fine. At least I tried. At least I put forth effort. And with Dixon, his song called Sweeter, that he did, I think his video was just released not too long ago, but the song is just such a nice, uplifting, it could tell it has some gospel, elements to it. But it's really a song about finding someone to do life with, to live with, to love with, and to make life sweeter. And I just love this song. When I heard it last week, I really fell in love with it. I liked the video. It was very, nostalgic with the VCR kind of look. So the song Sweeter is very sweet. And I'm sure that you guys will love it. So check it out. It's really, really good song, Sweeter by Dixon. So that brings us to the end of this episode. Very short and sweet. I really want to continue the conversation on women and mental health, and how we as women, sometimes we kind of overlook our own strengths and overlook our own brilliance. And I don't want us to do that anymore. I want us to keep going, keep loving. I want us to keep creating. I want us to keep striving and moving forward, and being our best selves. Looking after our mental health is important, because we can't do our best if we're not our best. But I feel like, once we get that going, and once we are able to really tap into who we are as great people, then, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. So please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tune in to more episodes, and tune in also to the AMP radio stations. You download the AMP app It's basically an online radio, so you have people there curating different kind of playlists for people to listen to, whether you are commuting, cleaning up the house on a Saturday, if you whatever. I do it at different times, but I really love music and I really love being able to vibe out with different kind of sets. So tune into that. Is on AMP. It is a free app that you can download and listen to Pretty Suited Radio. I'm gonna put the links in the description page. And happy Women's History Month, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.